This is super improvised and I'm tired, but I promised I will record every day, so here goes. Okay, today we're going to talk about perfectionism. You want me to talk about that? Here's a fun fact. I never thought myself to be a perfectionist. And my logic behind that was that I never do anything perfect. Why would someone like me who never gets anything done in a perfect fashion think they're a perfectionist? Turns out that's what perfectionism is. To never think that anything you do is good enough. It's perfect enough. And even if it is, you will not acknowledge it. Ann Wilson said that perfectionism is self-abuse of the highest order. And that is so accurate, because when you are trying to be perfect for standards that you have set yourself that are not reachable, that means you can never escape from those standards. So even if nobody's watching and telling you, do better, you should do more, you're out there berating yourself and exceeding and expecting yourself to reach some level of perfection is a perfection that is not realistic, non-existent. So why are we perfectionists then? What are we really trying to achieve? Because you would think we're being perfectionistic because we like things to be done perfectly. No. Perfectionists don't do things perfectly because they like things to be perfect. Although, arguably, of course they do, right? They don't want things to be perfect. But they do it because in this way, nobody will see that they are imperfect. As far as a perfectionist goes, what you put out in the world and how perfect that is a direct image of how perfect you are. So your accomplishments and what you do and how you present yourself externally is the direct translation of who you are. So if you don't do something perfect, if you don't do something that is considered good enough, then you automatically assume that people are going to see that you are imperfect and you are not good enough. Let me make this easier on you. If you're a perfectionist, you're not perfect. I know, right? You're not perfect. And why would you be perfect? Who is perfect? What is perfect? I'm going to say, although I try to stay away from these topics, but those raised in religious backgrounds and indoctrinated that they are born flawed and sin and not enough, but somebody graciously accepts them anyway, as long as they become just like that God and they live by that image of perfection, they're going to be all right. So I think a lot of people have been born into the idea that they are imperfect, but as a shameful thing, right? So you having imperfections is more like, oh, I'm imperfect, but at least my God loves me, even if I'm imperfect. And I just have to follow these steps and then I'll become perfect in the eyes of this God or whoever. So it has this negative connotation. Like when something is not perfect, we're immediately thinking that it's bad and it's flawed. And I don't know if you love anybody in your life or even if you love a pet. I'm pretty sure you can think of something imperfect about them that you absolutely love. So we are given this illusion that there's an attainable level of perfection that we can achieve. And when we do achieve it, there's something that's going to happen for us that will not happen with other people. We're not as perfect as we are. And that is absolutely absurd to even think that it can exist as a way for us to live our lives. And at such a core level, the amount of shame when we're being told, you are imperfect, as if it's a bad thing. You're human. So let's take this as a fact that you're not perfect, that you also probably have issues that other people would not like if they were to see them, that you also have parts of you and maybe in your body or whatever that they're not ideal, that there's things that if you were to say them out loud, people would be like, oh, what is wrong with you? And there's mistakes that you made, and there's people that you've hurt, and there's secrets that maybe you don't want to be able to hear, and there's thoughts that you're having, and sometimes you're like, who cares? You're not perfect. You are not perfect, and that is absolutely just fine and human. What is not fine and not human is to chase a perceived level of perfection. No, a delusional level of perfection in which you're infallible, you never make mistakes, you do everything perfectly, you are seen perfectly under whatever light is seeing you. It doesn't matter who is seeing you and from what direction, which point of view, you're perfect. You're perfect, you're perfect, and you're perfect. That's not realistic, and that's not humanly possible. Because even if you are perfect in whatever way you consider perfect to look like, there's going to be people who will see you and not think that you're that perfect, or find flaws in you and find things about you that they don't like and find things about you that they want to judge. I think instead of pursuing perfection, we should start thinking whether we can finally accept the fact that we are imperfect without that being something we're ashamed of. And without trying to chase levels of perfection to establish a kind of feeling about ourselves that is better, that we're seen now as somebody perfect. Chasing perfection is really being in a very abusive relationship with ourselves. Because as I said before, we can never escape that. We can never be like, well, I didn't do so well, but nobody saw it, right? And you have this voice inside your mind, you're like, I saw it, you failed. You can never do anything. And then you do everything horribly. So how are we going to make up for this? So now we have to do even better. Let's create this rigid plan in which you will do everything so perfect that nobody will have anything to say. No bad comments, no judgment. Everybody will admire you. Everybody will think you're great. Everybody this, everybody that. Who is this everybody? Who is this world that you're trying to show your perfection to, and why does it matter so much? What are you really pursuing here? To be seen under a good eye, or to hide your dirtiest secret, which is that you are imperfect, and that is perfectly fine. But your secret is a little bit more dirty than that, because you don't just think, oh, I'm just imperfect. You think, I'm not worthy. Why do I even exist? I'm not as good as anybody else. I probably shouldn't even be here. So every time somebody sees some type of imperfection in you, you probably think, they're going to see it. They're going to see that I don't belong here. They're going to see that I'm not good enough. They're going to see that I don't deserve to take up space because I'm not perfect. And guess what? They're also imperfect and they're also flawed. But you don't have to go on a mission to prove that so that you can feel better. But instead, what I want you to do with this perfectionistic tendency that you may have is to start accepting the fact that you're not perfect. And that's absolutely fine. Chasing perfectionism is avoiding to sit with the discomfort of feeling like somebody has something to say about you that you don't like to hear, or has an opinion about you that it's not so nice, or that somebody doesn't think you are good enough, or you deserve to have the things that you have, or that you don't do a perfect enough job. And I feel like as we are healing and sort of turning towards authenticity, people made a little bit more trendy to be authentic. But then, of course, they took the trend of authenticity and they're pretending to be authentic. So, it's like, on TikTok, they had these videos where you're supposed to be taking off your makeup or doing your makeup to say something, right? And they're like, oh, people want you to be authentic. Just do your thing while you're doing your makeup, say a story. And then everybody was just doing their makeup so that they could say the story, which was not authentic, right? So we're trying to make authenticity trendy again, but then we're trying to make trends out of authenticity and then use them trends to pretend we're authentic, but we're not really authentic. We just want to be curated and we want to be perfect and we want to be flawless and we want everything to be amazing. And I think we're missing the point of experimenting with how we can show up in this world a little bit more free, a little bit more of ourselves, and also at the same time take feedback, not as a defense on our character and our whole existence, but maybe on our skills to do certain things. Right? Some people will say for my videos, "Oh, you would have had a more popular channel if the lighting was better." Yeah, but if I had to do better lighting, I would probably not make these videos. Although to be fair, I have professional equipment. I'm just not really bothered that much because when I feel like recording something, I have to sit down and get it done because or else it's not going to happen. Could I have done these videos better? Yeah. Could I have done them worse? Yeah. But the thing for me that is important is that I'm doing them. So at some point we have to get used to being show up as imperfect and have people see the ways that we don't do perfect things. So I guess what I want to communicate to you is that if you're struggling with perfectionism, don't fall into the trap to think that there's an attained level of perfection that you can achieve by continuing to pursue being perfect, because the drives behind you wanting perfection isn't like, oh, you want to do something, you want to do the great job at it. You just don't want to be seen as imperfect. And being driven by that is disastrous and you can never win because nothing is perfect for everybody. So that's it. That's all for me today. I'll see you guys soon.